Sadie's got some big news, and the girls are setting up Agent Turner. Plus, we've got lots of viewer shout-outs coming up right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
It's beginning! Oh my gosh, this episode is huge. We have so many things to talk about this episode. Plus, we've got a lot of you guys live in the chat right now. So you guys know the drill. We are talking about lots of good segments. We're talking about Sadie's decision. We're talking about the girls setting up Agent Turner. And we're talking about Noah because he takes a big turn this episode. Plus, we have news for you. We've got viewer shout outs and we've got the promo and predictions. So if you guys have any opinions on that, be sure to shout us out right now in the live chat and we'll read it right now, okay?
Oh my God, I'm so excited, guys, to be back. Another week, another episode, and what a great one it was.
Yes, it was. Juliet, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you doing,
I'm
Kelsey?
doing great. So first of all, let's do overall thoughts for the episode. What would you say?
Overall, I mean, I loved it. I feel like I say the same thing every week, but I think that they did a really good job. It's still keeping me on my toes. We had a lot of revelations this episode, and I really enjoyed the whole Annie storylines that we got to see a little bit more, because I think in last few episodes maybe was lacking a little bit more in storylines, and now they're going really deep into that, so I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Annie, and she has a lot of things. She's a busy girl this episode for sure. And we see her character changing a little bit. My favorite thing, just an overall thought of the episode, is I'm really enjoying, this is the first time we saw flashbacks of the young girls. So we got younger Rubby, younger Beth, and cigarette smoking younger Annie. So that was really fun to get to see their backstory.
It really was. I think I love that part as well. I think it was a great opener, and it really set such a sweet tone for the episode because you really saw their essence and how that's really been there for so long.
Yeah, and their friendship. It really built so much of their character in this episode, seeing how much they've been through. Like, they talk about it. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to do it. And we got to really see that, how they played it. Oh, it was so good. I love it. So let's jump in. The first thing I want to talk about is a very controversial subject. And my favorite thing about this show is how bold and honest that they are in their writing. And we've seen a little bit of Sadie's character throughout last season and this season when she's going through figuring out what gender that she wants to be. And this episode, she decided that she's a boy. She's going to be identified as a boy. And this is a very bold thing for the writers to put into the script. Her character is very... I don't know if she's so controversial. I feel like it's a controversial subject, but it's a really cool thing that the writers are bringing to light. So
yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's really cool that we're having these conversations. And I kind of also liked how they allowed for those conversations to happen rather than right off the bat, season 1, episode 1, oh, this is the situation. We had this character evolve, and we had this character at a young age try to figure out, what it wants to kind of move forward as. So I thought that was really neat that there's an evolution that's happened over the last few seasons.
And we saw her face bullying with the kids in her school whenever they were pulling down her pants and stuff like that, and really how heart-wrenching that is for her and for Annie, being a parent and having to just be supportive of her and her decisions. So I thought that was incredible. This scene went by really quickly. It was hard for me to really grasp what was going on because this was right after Annie had helped Nancy get birth to their baby boy. And then it was a very quick moment, a very loving moment between Annie and Sadie, but I had to use closed captioning to see kind of what they were saying specifically. So it's kind of really quick for them to just touch and go on that.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think there's so much happening in this episode. I would have maybe liked a little bit of deeper of a conversation. It seemed very much so in passing in a way because it was really quick. If you looked away for only a few seconds, you would definitely miss it. But at the same time, maybe that's a way to show that it's a big deal, but it's not really a big deal, for lack of a better way to explain it, that it doesn't necessitate this huge orchestra and this huge conversation, and it can just be what it is.
I really agree with that and what you're saying, because like you said, it's like they touch on it and they're deciding that this isn't going to be what an entire episode is made of. They're kind of saying like, this is my decision, we're moving forward, and it's a way of accepting instead of going back and like being like, are you sure, is this okay, now what are we gonna do now, like it's very light, and just the show almost accepts it even in the writing and how they do it quickly. So that was awesome, and that was cool for them to touch, and like I said, very honest. Then we do see, I hope that we see this a growing relationship between Annie and Nancy a little bit. Personally, that's what I think. Annie had to be there to deliver the baby. It was a little bit weird that Greg wasn't there, but she was being supportive, and she jumped into the pool with her and helped give birth. So it just shows, I think Annie's character is growing a lot. So I feel good about their relationship, and I hope that we see more of crazy Nancy. I feel like she'll be a good storyline to further.
I think so too, and yes, it was a great gesture to her to hop in there, but I mean, I feel like she had to. Just seeing her cry and just realize that saying that she was alone, what are you going to say to that? Like, oh, no, you're not. I'm sorry, she is. She's alone. And then B, it's just like, she's alone because of you. So it was a sweet gesture, but it seemed like a small thing considering everything that they've been through. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And we've got a couple people in the chat I'm just going to shout out really quickly who are talking about this with us. They are saying this was one of their favorite Samantha is saying it's one of her favorite episodes. She loved all the storylines from the character. And Aaron says, I feel like it's super important to have that representation, talking about Sadie in a show like this. And then Danielle is out there. She says, I love that we're getting all these other in-depth storylines from each of the girls. And this show isn't just about crime boss stuff, which I love too. So keep chatting, letting us know what you think about this as well as we go on. But yeah, that's cool. I think we're all kind of on the same page about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump into a less favorite topic, which is Deanzie. Oh my goodness. We had some really great predictions. If you were watching the show last week, Juliet predicted, you were spot on some of these predictions. So you predicted that Dean was going to screw something up. I think we both kind of talked about that. But really a good catch was that the money was going to go missing. And Dean made that happen. So he got framed by 2 teenage kids, and now Beth has to pick up the pieces for that. So do we think we're going to continue seeing Mr. Deanzie now that he's kind of up and left the kids, or up and left Beth?
I think we have to, just because I don't see Beth not seeing her kids for too long. I don't know how present Dean is going to be. But at the same time, I just think that he doesn't have any redeeming qualities. And I think that today we just like another situation. He's yet again put them in a situation where they lose money, I think is ridiculous. However, I was kind of thinking this was some good parenting, getting the kids away from that house, because I don't think it has been the safest environment. And Beth hasn't really admitted that.
Right. That's very true. I am kind of getting tired of Dean's kind of repetitive, screw ups. It's just like it's fun for a little bit because it, changes the storyline and makes the girls go in different directions, like the car dealership and other things that they might not have done. But it is kind of getting old news, like for him just to be the only character that's like throwing a wrench into things and screwing stuff up. I'm kind of ready to see, maybe somebody else doing that, and just to kind of have some space and a little bit of breath between Beth and Dean. I just feel like that would be refreshing to maybe have an episode where he's like in it for, like a second.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also a really little nugget from this episode is that we learned that they've been really dating since such a young age. We kind of knew it, but to see the character be that young and telling Beth saying that she's been invited to prom by him, it's just kind of like, oh wow. That explains why they're kind of still having a hard time parting ways.
Right. And he was a senior, so like in high school that was like a cute thing. Like I'm sure but even with that, it wasn't like she was head over heels necessarily for him. We saw in the flashback, it was kind of like, well, a senior asked me to prom, like, should we go to the movie or should I go to prom? Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't really like ever love at first sight, I don't think.
I think it was more sort of stability because she says, what, his dad, because even her friend's saying like, hey, really, is that what you want? And she says that his dad owns a car dealership. And I think that was more so a sense of security because they have issues with their mom and all that.
Right. Oh my gosh. So I don't want him to go away completely. I'll say that. But I do want a couple episodes where we kind of, have a breath away from him.
Why? Does that mean because we
space.
have more Rio if there's less Dean?
Okay. I really enjoyed Brio in this episode.
I love them. And this is probably one of my favorite scenes all
Oh
season.
my gosh. I love it because Rio is sitting there laughing about the mess, about Dean. Like he's not reprimanding Beth for Dean and not saying like, I'm going to fix Dean or whatever. He's just like chuckling over what mess and kind of like an idiot that Dean is. And I just thought that was such a pure little moment. It was just like a date kind of moment,
Yeah, and he was really explaining to her the whole situation, how she needs to protect her family and how everything works and who she is, because she keeps forgetting really how deep in she is with this. And I thought he did it such a great way, because sometimes he threatens her and he's like, this isn't a game, this is gangster life, and he's very threatening, whereas this time he was just sweet about it. And I was like, oh yeah, show her the ropes. I like it.
I know. I really liked them, and I'm kind of like swaying back to Team Brio right now. I'm just, if we can see more of that soon, I'd be one happy lady, So, speaking of getting into the crime scene a little bit, we see Beth and the girls kind of, okay, let's start with your prediction from last week. You predicted that Ruby was going to be calling Beth and not Agent Turner, and you were spot on. I love it. And that's exactly what happened. Their relationship is now in this rocky situation, but it's lasted so long that I think it's going to survive. But Ruby confesses everything to Beth, and Beth is, for good reason, a little bit
on edge for sure.
Yeah, and she doesn't know if she can trust Ruby or not, which is understandable, obviously. But this episode, they're kind of like, she's coming forward and confessing that she did this, and it's going to be a mending episode, I think, this episode and next. The trust is a little bit shaky. But I'm glad that they're working through it, and I'm glad that Ruby didn't go towards Agent Turner like I thought was going to happen last week. So I'm glad that they're working together. And they end up setting up Agent Turner with the car. So Agent Turner is thrown off his trail because he thought he was going to get Beth. Do you think, I'm kind of thinking that Agent Turner is going to kind of punish Ruby for lying to him. Do you see anything coming up between Ruby and Agent Turner, like, because of this?
I mean, I don't know. That's what I was thinking, is that so he handed her the whole file on her husband, which I'm having a hard time thinking he doesn't have a copy of. And, she did give the information. I just don't really see her being 100% out of the clear. But I don't know. It's tricky. It's a tricky situation.
It's really tricky. And one of my biggest questions is this lie detector test. So Stan had to go through the lie detector test with Agent Turner, and it kept showing Agent Turner asking him questions, and he was very calm.
I was very proud of him, considering the other episode where he's shaking and shaking.
The shaky hand. He didn't have that at all. And from the very short glimpse that I got, it looked like the waves were very consistent. And I was wondering if Agent Turner was like lying about him failing the test just to see if he did. Do you think that was a genuine moment when Agent Turner said that he failed the test? Or do you think that there's more to that at all?
I don't know. I think Agent Turner would have never let him pass the test for sure. So, not to say that he 100% failed him on purpose. I think I don't really know, but I just know that he would have never let him just pass.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's true, because I'm wondering if he even saw the test, or if it was just Agent Turner saying, you failed, now I'm going to lock you up, and then see what his reaction is. They really just touched on that briefly. It wasn't too in-depth about it, but I was kind of wondering, because it was very contradictory, like steady hands, good answers, and then you failed. So I don't know. That's going to be really tough to see their relationship moving forward, and what Ruby's going to have to do to, I guess, tell the kids if he goes to jail, and like how this is going to be a whole new dynamic for the moving forward. So we'll see.
It looks like in the chat we have a lot of people thinking. Danielle Roach said that, oh my God, I totally thought he was lying about him failing the test. Ambria C said lie detectors are so unreliable anyway, they never use them in courts anymore. And Storm Within said, believe Agent Turner lied about Stan failing the lie detector test.
See, I'm thinking that that Agent Turner lied about failing the lie detector test too. Like, I'm really on board with that. But I don't know if they'll address it. We'll have to see. That can be talked about in predictions, because we saw a little promo about it. So keep your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in our later segment. The last thing I really want to talk about in this episode is one more prediction that we came up with last week, and that is Annie's new guy pal, Noah. So, I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this. You had a lot of thoughts last week, and he's just acting super sweet to Annie, but that's because there's a reason. Juliet,
what did I say
last
last week? I said, this man's weird. There's something weird, because the fact within the first 30 seconds, he says, I see you, and he's seeing what he's coming out of his mouth is sweet for someone who's known her or dated her or been around her vicinity for some period of time, not within the first 3 seconds. No man's are going to say, oh, I see you. And if he does, within your first interaction, you'd be like, that's really creepy. Please leave me alone.
Yes. And then this episode, you could tell that he was trying to get information out of her. They were making out in the car, and he was like, tell me about yourself. I want to know more about you and all this stuff. And you could tell there was something up a lot this episode. I have to give it to Annie, because I loved her lies. Like, he was like, tell me more. And she was like, well, I'm, going to be a nurse. I'm traveling in Africa and all these other countries. And Sadie came along with me, just feeding him all these lies. So he's not getting any real information out of her. And I just love that about Annie. Totally her character.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, I do think that moving forward, it's going to cause some trouble. Like, he being embedded, like if Annie, does fall in love, maybe not fall in love, but continues to date him, then I feel like he could get something out of her, find something, just because she can be careless. But I think if she keeps on this track about lying about stuff, it'll be really funny, like getting him off of the track, and all that stuff. So I don't know. Do you see anything coming about out of this relationship?
I don't know. Well, my question to you is, do you think he actually really likes her, or he just is happy he's getting some?
Honestly, what kind of a job is he doing? If he's an FBI agent, and then he's going around sleeping with all his, clients or whatever, that's a pretty interesting job he's doing. I don't know, how many other cases has he been on? You know what I mean? So that's pretty intense to be like, okay, I'm covering this case. She's hot. Let's, I don't know. It's just really interesting.
And it's so strange how they're really putting so much money into this whole investigation that they're hiring him to be an undercover grocery manager.
Right? Yeah, I'm curious about that too. How long is he going to be?
I don't know. This show again always is super interesting.
Honestly, if he is undercover at the grocery store, then shouldn't there be, I don't know, they had the crime happening, they were laundering money through that. I mean, he should have embedded someone in the grocery store, a year ago when all of the laundering was happening, and then they could have caught Leslie and everything. So should have done that a lot sooner. I don't know. They're a little late to the game as usual. So we'll see. Anyways, any other thoughts on that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Again, I can't wait to see what's going to come from this. I was starting to like their relationship, today at the beginning of the episode until there was that whole moment. I was like, oh, you see, listen to your own predictions, Juliet. Don't get sucked into these storylines because your first intuition is usually the right one.
I know, you did so good. I'm so excited about that. In the chat, we have Sarah Explains It All. I thought he liked her until I saw this convo with Turner, so I was on the same page with Sarah on this one. Ambria says, that's what I'm saying. Sleeping with Annie sounds unethical at the very least. And absolutely. Aaron says, truly thought he liked her, but what he's doing is wrong. Jimmy is just giving this dude girls to sleep with. That's messed up. Yep, it really is. You're really going above and beyond on your job there, Noah. So there we have it. All right, so there was so much that happened in this episode. Is there anything else you want to talk about specifically before we jump into some of our other segments?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. And again, thanks you guys so much for hopping in the chat.
Yes, we love to see this and to chat with you guys. We are going to jump into a couple other segments. So if you want to start thinking about your predictions for the show, who your baddest good girl is, and any other news that you guys have found, then feel free to throw that in the chat and we'll shout you out. Ooh. Okay? Let's just jump into some news.
Ooh.
AfterBuzz TV News.
All right, so with Mother's Day right around the corner, Good Girls is throwing out some Mother's Day mugs.
Which is so perfect for this show.
It's so good. They have a bunch of different, I don't know what you would call it. Like they have mugs, they have some t-shirts.
Merch.
Yeah, there you go, some merch. They have some wine glasses, but they are really promoting this mug that's called World's Best Mom, just in time for Mother's Day. So that's specifically for that. So, if you think your mom's the world's best mom, then you should get her a mug from Good Girls.
Yeah, and where can people get these?
They can go to the NBC site. I've also posted on my Twitter, so if you want to go over there, then you can follow the link and get your mom a mug.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for that info.
Yeah, so that's fun. And just a reminder that we are getting a season 3. So we shouted that out last week, but in case you missed our show, Good Girls is coming back for a season 3, which we're so excited about. All right, so do you want to read out some of the viewer shout outs from last week?
I will. How about we do Baddest Good Girl before by the time I pull this up?
Okay, you pull that up. We're going to go into our Baddest Good Girl segment. So if you want to shout out your favorite baddest good girl from this episode, then put in the comments and we will read that out loud. I will say it's a tough one for me. I really want to give it to Ruby, but I'm still kind of upset with her throwing Beth under the bus. And I mean, she made a lot of really good decisions this episode, but I'm torn because I kind of want to give it to Annie. I think that's who I'm going to give it to this week for jumping into a pool of poo and baby guts. Yeah, so really gross, but I think that's who I'm going to give it to because it really showed her character, and it showed her stepping up to do a dirty job. So go Annie, proud of you. You're my good girl pick for this week. Juliet,
I think mine
yours?
goes to Ruby. Because considering how scared she is of everything, she's scared about her husband's situation, she's scared about her friendship with Beth, she ultimately figured out a way to, despite all of that, kind of fix things. And although she's not 100% there, the easy route would have been maybe ratting out Beth and then making sure her family was okay. But then she couldn't live with that. I think she just was struggling with so much, and she really moved forward in the best way she knew how. So I'm very proud of her.
Awesome. Okay, I like that. From the chat, we have Storm Within. Your baddest good girl this week is young Ruby. So kind of like Juliet here. You're giving it to young Ruby. I like that. She was a good friend even from the beginning, so go young Ruby. Jessica, your baddest good girl is Sadie. Oh my gosh, that's the best pick. Yes, I agree. Sadie made a huge choice this week. She was very bold about it. We love her for doing that. Good pick, Jessica. Sarah, your baddest good girl is Annie, jumping in the pool of goo, telling the douchebag of the week, Noah, all those lies. I like it. We got the same good girl. And Aaron agreed that Sadie is the baddest good girl. Yes, I love that. I think those are all good choices, and we just got a whole show of good girls to pick from this week.
We really do. I love weeks like this.
I do too. Okay, so do you want to continue shouting out some people from last week?
Last week, you guys hopped in those comments, and we thank you for that. You guys were really, really cool and had some great thoughts. So one of them is from Vic Contreras, who says that heated confrontation between Rio and Beth needed to happen. Beth needs to know she can't just do whatever she wants. That being said, I think it was nice of Rio to get her back the dubby, but I'm not surprised. He knew whatever was left in the car was important to her.
That's so Brio.
It is.
It's going to keep happening.
I know. But are we sure that was him? That's what because we just got the envelope. I don't think it was signed.
I mean, it said Elizabeth, and nobody else calls her Elizabeth.
That's
like
true.
that.
That's true. That's a great little tidbit. We have another comment from Unicorn Can, who says, yes, I like the idea of the manager and Annie, but way it was set up sometimes seems off. So yeah, we agree. The way it was set up was kind of off. I would not be surprised if he was in on it with Agent Turner. Oh my God.
Called it.
You called it. Congrats. And you wrote this 6 days ago. So truly, we're not making this up. You are a mastermind who can predict the future, apparently. The good girl's future, at least.
I love it.
Josie, who wrote 4 days ago. Nah, Ruby's just trying to look out for her family. Plus, Beth has put her pride and ambition above Ruby and Annie on multiple occasions. I kind of agree with that. Ruby's situation is more serious, of course, so it's understandable why she's on the fence about ratting out Beth. In the end, I think the girls will find a way to get themselves out of this.
They always do. They always do.
They always do, and this week they did. So, well, at least they're heading towards that. We'll see next week. We'll talk more on predictions. And last but not least, Joey Hudson, who wrote 2 days ago, saying, what if you had to choose between your family and your best friend? It's a hard choice. Ruby doesn't want to get Beth in trouble, but on the other hand, what about her family?
It's true. You're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, Beth is like family, but she has a real family with Stan and her kids. So how do you pick? It's really tough. You want to be loyal to both. How do you help both? Sometimes you can't, you know?
That's why I enjoyed this episode, the Beyonce analogies.
That was epic. I loved that so much. It was like, are we talking Destiny's Child or are we talking Jay-Z and Beyonce? You know, like it was so a parallel between what's happening in this series. Like, the good girls are Destiny's Child, obviously, and then Ruby and Stan are Beyonce and Jay-Z. That's all I have to say about that. I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for shouting us out. We love you guys commenting and giving your opinion too. We love talking about the show. So keep commenting, keep subscribing. You can comment on YouTube and you can listen to us on Spotify. So keep it up, guys. Before we go, we have one last thing, and that is predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I'm nervous. I've been on a roll.
Oh my gosh.
And now I'm like legit drawing a blank and I'm just very scared.
Last week, you killed it on predictions. I was like, wait, did you write this episode? Like, this is exactly what you said. So super excited to hear what you have to say. But before we get into predictions, let's talk about the promo. So the promo this week, we saw Dean talking to Beth, and he just wants her to be out of the game with Rio. Obviously, he's jealous of the Rio situation. And then we saw Rio and Beth together. He put his hand on her. Then we saw Stan in handcuffs, being put into handcuffs. And lastly, we saw the girls getting their masks back out and kidnapping a guy from what looked like a store. So that was what the show gave us to work with as far as next week's promos. What would you like to predict?
I don't know if this is a full-on prediction or more so what I want to see. I don't think Stan's fully going to prison. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, well, I hope that comes true because I am on board with that. I do not want to see Stan in prison. My prediction is something's gonna happen between Noah and Annie. I don't know if they're either going to keep dating or she's going to get tired of him and throw him to the curb, but I feel like something will happen with that relationship. And what do you think is the prediction about they're going to have to rob somebody, this guy that they've kidnapped? Do you think that was like a store? Do you have any ideas about what that could be? Is he going to be like living with the girls for a night? I'm interested to see where that's gonna go.
Yeah, I'm interested too. I'm drawing a blank. I'm not sure.
Do you think they're gonna put him in the treehouse again?
I think it'd be funny.
I think it would be awesome.
I think they should do that again because that's kind of we haven't seen that since season 1, so I think that'd be kind of cool.
Bring back the treehouse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Maybe they've updated it or it smells really bad. Who knows? Other predictions.
Not really, no.
No? Let's see. I think that we've got Beth and Dean. Do you think they're obviously going to meet. I'm predicting that he's going to kind of be out of the picture for the next episode other than like a quick meetup. But I think he's going to be gone for a minute.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And Annie, any predictions on that?
I don't think she's going to find out right away that her boyfriend is a lying, cheating person. I use cheating because this is a big lie, so I think it's applies to cheating.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're going to ride that out for a few more episodes.
Okay, and lastly, I said Beth, Annie, and then Ruby and Stan. You already said Stan's not going to go to jail.
Yeah.
Or like really touch on that. Okay, I like that. Let's jump to the chat really quickly before we wrap this up. Samantha's prediction is there will be a Beth and Rio kiss. Ooh, I hope so. I'm excited for another Brio moment. I'll tell you that. The girls robbed the loan place to get money for Ruby and her family. We'll see more about Noah working with Agent Turner. Sarah explains it all, says, I think that the body that Rio held on to is going to come up later and save the day. Ooh, maybe he frames somebody with that. We'll see. She also says, I think he will plant it on Dean, and Dean will take the fall for everything and ultimately get rid of Agent Turner. Ooh, I like that. We get rid of Dean and Agent Turner. Whammy. Let's make that happen. Jessica is predicting that the girls need money for Stan's bail. Jessica also says they rob a payday loan place. Storm Within says they kidnapped the guy who told Ruby that she will return to the payday loan place a few weeks ago. Right, so payday loan. Ruby said that she was going to never be back, but maybe she comes back and robs it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Lots of really great predictions, guys. I hope we see some of these in the next episode.
I think so too.
All right. Okay. Final thoughts?
Guys, if you want to follow me on Instagram, please feel free to do so at Bonjour Juliet. And until next week, I will miss you dearly.
I will miss you too. And you can continue the conversation with me at Kelsey Hightower. And we'll see you right back here next week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.